Alrighty, in this video we're going to look at 3 different ways of implementing an automatic item pickup system. The first way will be the easiest way possible. You can do it with just a few lines of code using some of the demo scripts that are included in the Ultimate Crafting system. The next way we'll look at a slightly lower level way of implementing it, so you get a bit of a deeper understanding of how you can utilize the Ultimate Crafting system. And the final way will show how you can do a crossover with another system. In this case, we'll be using our low poly Warpack as an example, and use its systems in conjunction with the Ultimate Crafting system in order to have some more advanced behaviors. So to start off, let's get the simple one out of the way. If I hop over to the project view here and open up the assets folder, let's go ahead and create a new C# script, and we'll call this basic auto item pickup. Before we hop into the code editor here, I'll just show the existing item pickup system in the game. If you go ahead and toss an item out here, you are able to point at it and click and collect it. And as you can see, it adds it to your inventory. And we'll be making use of all of these existing scripts, just hooking into it with a different method. In this case, we'll use a trigger. And when that trigger has been entered, we'll just call the gather interactable that is on the pickupable item. So let's hop to our code editor here. And we'll go ahead and delete all of these because we won't be needing them. And we'll go ahead and just use the standard onTriggerEnter function that Unity provides. And this item pickup script will go on the player, or whatever we want to automatically collect the items. And it will call the interact method on the item that will be picked up. So we'll take a look at the other collider and say get component, the gather interactable that's on it. This is one of the polyperfect.crafting.demo scripts. And just say begin interact with this game object. And strictly speaking, this is all we might need to do. However, there is of course the possibility that something that enters the radius here does not have a gather interactable on it, and we want to make sure that it doesn't throw a bunch of errors in that case. So instead of using get component, we can say if other.try get component out gather interactable gatherable, then gatherable.begin interact with this game object. But one more caveat is that this script will be going on a trigger that is on a child of the object that will be doing the interacting. So instead, we'll have a public game object, interactor. And this will probably just be the parent, but we want to make sure that we have the ability to assign whatever we want to it. So it'll call begin interact on the gatherable and pass in the interactor as the object to interact. And believe it or not, that's actually all we need. So go ahead and save and hop back to Unity. And if we minimize all of this stuff, let's go ahead and hop over to the player and add our script to it. So I'm going to use Alt-Shift-N to create an empty child, and we'll call this picker upper. And add that auto pickup, basic auto item pickup. And the interactor is going to be the first person player. We also need the collider that has the trigger on it. So we'll go ahead and add a component, sphere collider, and make sure that it is large enough around the base of the player here, and just make sure it has trigger enabled. Maybe a little bit smaller, so that when we toss it, we don't immediately pick it up. Now if I hop into play mode, and go ahead and toss an item out, and walk towards it, you can see we automatically picked it up. So as you can see, it was just a few lines of code, and we have an automatic item collection system. Alright, for this second part here, let's take a look at a lower level way of doing it. So we'll start off the same way by creating a new script. Create a new C# script. This one will be called low level auto pickup. And similarly, we'll use an onTriggerEnter. Let me zoom in for you. Let me zoom in for you. Void onTriggerEnter, collider other. Except instead of using the existing demo scripts, we will create our own one. So we'll have a new script that is auto pickupable, I guess. So we'll create that as well. Public class auto pickupable. That is a mono behavior. And this is the script that our low-level auto pickup will look at. But of course, since it's mono behavior, it needs to be put into its own file. So we'll put it into its own file real quick. And it's just going to act as a tag for now. And we'll say if other.tryGetComponent auto pickupable out var pickupable. Slightly different syntax this time, just for variety. Now we can do a bit more low-level stuff. So instead of using the gather interactable, we're going to directly insert into the player's inventory. So we need a reference to the inventory that we're going to insert into. So we'll say public base item stack inventory. In this case, the player typically has a child slots inventory on it, but the base item stack inventory can be used for others as well. We'll say target inventory. And then we'll need to get the items from the thing that can be picked up. So we'll say pickupable.getComponent, and we'll look for the item slot component that is on the thing that is automatically pickupable. So we'll get a item slot component. This is the typical item slot that is on basically everything that has to do with items in the Ultimate Crafting system. And we'll cache a reference to that so we can use it a bunch. So we'll say var slot to extract from equals that. And then we could just directly extract from it by saying slot.extractAll. However, we want to account for situations where, say, the player's inventory is full. So instead, let's take a look at all that we could extract from it and say slot.peak. And that gives us the most possible stuff that we could extract from the thing that we might extract from. But I am getting a little ahead of myself. Since we're using a get component on the auto pickupable here, we want to ensure that something that has an auto pickupable always has an item slot component on it. So to do that, let's hop over to the auto pickupable script that we just created and just stick a simple require component type of item slot component. And that will simply guarantee that it will always have one attached. All right, so if we take a look at what we can extract from it, we'll say var max possible extraction equals that. And now we see how much we could insert of what we extracted into the player's inventory. We have a convenient method called insert possible, but also one that is remainder if inserted. So this doesn't actually do an insertion, but it will tell us what would remain if we did insert. So we can say var remainder, var potential remainder, because we're not actually doing the insert yet, remainder equals target inventory dot remainder if inserted max possible extraction. And so now we have a lot of useful information. We have everything that we could extract from the item that we're going to pick up. We have what would be left over if we inserted everything from what we could extract into the player's inventory. And with that, we can account for all corner cases, such as the player's inventory being full, the item that we're extracting from not having much in it, and everything else. But now we have to actually use that information. So let's go ahead and calculate how much is actually able to be inserted. So for that, we have the maximum possible extraction and subtract the remainder after the potential insertion. So we'll say var what can be inserted equals the max possible extractions value. This is the quantity. The peak method up here gives us an item stack, but we just want to look at the quantity that was actually extracted. An item stack consists of both an ID and a quantity, and we just want the quantity. the max possible quantity minus the remainder, and that gives us the amount that could potentially be inserted. And now we actually do the extraction and insert. So we will say the target inventory dot insert possible slot to extract from dot extract amount what can be inserted. So if the player only has a little bit of space in their inventory, it won't extract the entirety of what it comes into contact with. Instead, it will only extract what it could extract and then insert it into the player's inventory. If you didn't want to account for all of these corner cases, you could just do this all in one step by saying target inventory dot insert possible slot to extract from dot extract all. However, this doesn't account for those corner cases. So we want to do a little math here to make sure we only extract and insert what is possible. So with that, we have a bit of a lower level implementation of it that we can use in much the same way as the former version. Hopping back into Unity, instead of being boring and just sticking it on the player like we did previously, let's use a box from the box tutorial that we had and have it automatically collect items that come nearby. So we already happen to have a trigger, it looks like, collection range here. So this is the same thing that we did to the player. We just have a child on it and have it marked as a trigger. Let's go ahead and stick the new script that we made on it. Auto pickupable, or low level auto pickup. And the target inventory is going to be the inventory that's on this object. According to the box tutorial, I believe it was on the canvas. The slots is what we want, I believe. Perfect. All right, so it will insert it into the slots available for the box. Now that is almost everything that we need. If I hop over to the box here, of course, we can open up the inventory of the box and insert stuff into it manually. However, if I toss an item at it, it will not pick it up. And that is because we have not yet added the auto pickupable tag onto these items. So these tossable items, as you might imagine, have the toss word here. We have a item clump tossed thing. And if I go ahead and open it up, we can go ahead and add that auto pickupable script onto it and hit save. And now everything that we toss will have that script attached. So if I go over here and toss this item, you see it disappears. And if we open up the box's inventory, there it is. So if we did something a little more complicated in terms of setup here, let me go ahead and add a few items to the player's inventory. We'll hop over here and go to default inventory. We already have a solar panel, but let's go ahead and add something else. If I open up the item world view here, let's go ahead and give the player a battery. We can set up a bit of automation now. If I create a few conveyor belts here, we'll have it point at the item box over there. All right, that looks good. Now let's set up a solar panel and attach the battery to it and let it charge. It pops off, lands on the conveyor belt, and is delivered to the box and deposited in the box. Very cool. All right, so that covers it for the more low-level implementation. You could have done this with the first thing we did as well, but it just looks at a bit more of the code that you can use if you want more fine-tuned control over everything. And now for the final part of this tutorial, we will look at how to add a soldier from the low poly war pack to the scene and have it use the low poly war pack's item pickup system in conjunction with the ultimate crafting systems items. So first things first, let's go ahead and add a soldier in here. I think we have soldier AI, soldier AI ally. We don't want him shooting us just for walking around. As you can see, he has a lot of scripts attached to him. and we'll be making a few scripts of our own that are in the same vein as those. But first things first, we want to make sure that he actually has an inventory that he can put stuff into. So let's go ahead and add a child slots inventory onto him. Have it pick up from sub inventories, and we'll go ahead and steal a bit of the functionality from this here box. We'll duplicate it and slide it onto the soldier ally here, so he'll be walking around with a box on him. Although that box, I guess, we should make invisible. We don't want him wearing a box. So let's go ahead and delete that. Of course, before deleting that, we need to unpack the prefab. We don't want him literally being a box. All right, and we probably don't need the auto collection thing on there, so we just have the box and its functionality. So we should be able to look at the soldier here as he's reloading and click on him, and he has an inventory that we can access. As you can see, we can place an item in it and go back to him and select the item. His name is Box right now. It's a fine name. In order to make it so that he can not only pick up the items, but also so that his AI can seek the items, we need to take advantage of a lot of the systems that are in the low poly warpack. And of course, it can get a little complicated. There's an awful lot of scripts. As you can see, if I just select this soldier here, there's a lot of stuff. So the best way to approach integrating your systems with another system is to look for functionality that already exists in that system that is rather similar. In this case, there is the usable system that is in the low poly warpack, and this is what, the guns that the soldier carries, for example, are usables, and there are usable pickups. If I search for them here, pickup, there should be a pickup weapon stun gun. You can drop that in there, and he would seek it out. If he didn't already have a weapon, he would walk over to it and pick it up. So we can go ahead and leverage that similar system. So all of the scripts that are on that, you can see it has a usable underscore pickup script on it. So this gives us a clue as to what scripts we will need to replicate with our own thing in order to make it so that we can have an item that we can drag in and pick up. So if we hop back into the code editor here, the clue that we just got was for the usable pickup. So let's search for that usable pickup, and we'll go ahead and dock it over here because we'll probably need to reference it. And there are a number of other systems with it. If we tab back over to Unity, you can see he has a number of scripts on him. One of these is the usable pickup collector. So we have a usable pickup on this item and then a collector on the soldier. Similarly, he also has this usable seek AI script on it. This is what makes him look for these things and actually move after them when he finds one. So these are the types of scripts that we'll need to create analogs for. So now we have a few more to keep in mind. We have the usable pickup, the usable pickup collector, and the usable seek. All right. So now we have a lot of clues as to how we should go about implementing this. So let's start creating some of them. We'll start with the basic one. This is the usable pickup. In this case, we will have an item pickup. Public class item pickup. It looks like that one inherits from simply pickup. We're getting a bit of an error here. Let's implement missing members. So we have usage. This is just a comment for how things are supposed to go in the low poly warpack. So we'll say an item that can be picked up. And we want to make sure that it actually has an item slot component attached to it. So we'll say require component type of item slot component, so that anything with an item pickup script on it also has an item slot component. And we have the initialize script. Now, I think there's a number of ways that we could handle it from this point. The pickup scripts, if we hop into them here, as you can see, have a Unity event on them, on picked up. So we can go ahead and trigger some action to happen when this on picked up event is triggered. We can use this initialize method here in order to register with that on picked up event. So we'll say this dot on picked up dot add listener, and we can have it do something with the, it looks like pickup collector that's attached to it. For this, we want it to work with the item gatherable. So in much the same way as our basic auto item pickup script here, where we have this gather interactable thing, we can go ahead and say get component gather interactable dot begin interact with, and we'll pass in the pickup collector. So p.gameObject. So in much the same way as the basic auto item pickupper, we simply tell the gather interactable on this game object that it should interact with the thing that is picking it up. Since we are making use of that gather interactable, we should add it in as a require component here. Type of gather interactable. Perfect. Looking at the usable pickup here, I believe that is all we need. So let's go ahead and stick this in its file and move on to the next thing. All right. So the next thing we had was a pickup collector that we need to create a similar thing for. So let's go ahead and say public class item pickup collector. And it looks like that inherits from pickup collector. So we will do the same here. Item pickup. All right. Need to make sure that we import polyperfect.war here and implement any missing members. Allows the picking up of items. Can pick up, we'll just say true for now. We could probably add some more robust logic to that, but for now we'll just say it can always pick it up. And then on pickup, I guess we don't need to do anything here because we handled that in the item pickup itself, simply triggering the gather interactable. So we will just do nothing because it is the responsibility of the gather interactable to handle stuff. And looking at that, I think that's actually all we need for this item pickup collector. Before we move into the advanced AI, let's go ahead and make sure that everything that we've done so far works because we have the item pickup and the item pickup collector. Let's hop back into Unity. All right, now that we've gone ahead and created those scripts, let's hop into play mode and see if he picks it up. And if we toss an item on him, of course, nothing happens. And the reason being is we created those scripts, but did not attach them to anything. So we need to attach the item pickup script to the soldier. So we'll go ahead and say item pickup collector and add that to him. And now we need to add the item pickup script to the tossed items. So let's go ahead and open the tossed item prefab here and make sure that it has a item pickup script on it. But the low poly warpack expects that for something to be pickupable, it has a collider that is a trigger on it. So let's go ahead and add that as well. Right now we already have a sphere collider on this object, but it is not a trigger because it interacts with physics. Triggers, of course, cannot interact with physics. Let's go ahead and make sure it is marked as trigger and increase the radius a little bit. And now, since we have the item pickup script attached and the trigger attached, our soldier should hopefully be able to pick up an item that we toss at him. And sure enough, he has it in his inventory. And just to make sure it's not a fluke, if we toss another item at box here, he does indeed have it added to his inventory. Perfect. Good man. All right, but we want to have him behave a little more intelligently. So let's have him seek out the items. We already found the scripts that we would potentially need over here. That usable seek AI is what makes him seek after the weapons. So this is what we'll want to create an analog for. Let's hop over to a new thing here and say public class item seek AI. And looks like it inherits from seeker base AI. And this one will seek out item pickups. But that's not all it needs. It looks like it also needs a seeker. So let's go ahead and look at what that seeker is, or tracker rather. So that looks like another thing that we'll need to create. So let's go ahead and create one of those trackers here. Looks like it needs, we'll call it an item pickup tracker, but we actually need to create that. So we'll say public class item pickup tracker. And according to the thing on the right there, we just inherit from tracker item pickup. And make sure we implement any missing stuff. We'll say that this simply allows tracking items. Of course, each of these things will be different depending on what system you're trying to integrate with. This is just for the low poly Warpack. And should track, I don't think we need any complicated logic for. We'll just say true for now. And then implement any missing stuff for the item seek. Usage causes the AI to seek nearby items. All right. Looks like the only other item that we must override is the layer that it's in. I guess this is movement layer because it's going to be moving after them. With that, let's go ahead and stick these in their own files. Let's look at the usable seek AI here, see if there's anything else. Nothing special there, it seems. So I think with that, that might be all that we need. Let's hop back over to Unity, making sure all our files are saved, and go ahead and add that seeking AI onto this guy. Selected the wrong guy. Here we go, the soldier. And we'll add a item seek AI. And that's probably good. Let's increase his speed so he absolutely makes a beeline for any items that we toss out. All right, dude, how you doing? Oh, sure enough. Wow, okay, he is speedy. So we can toss out an item, and he will go ahead and collect it as fast as we can. So with that, we have 3 different ways that we can make an automatic item collection system. The first one was a pretty basic one that just used a few lines of code. The next one looked at a slightly lower level way of approaching it, so you can get a better idea of how to work with item slots and extract and insert manually. And the final way was on integrating it with the low poly Warpack. And now we have a nice way of throwing items out and having a soldier seek them out and grab them of his own accord. If you liked this tutorial, make sure to go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If there was anything that we missed that you wanted to know how to do, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. This tutorial in particular was suggested by a member of our Discord server. If you'd like to join that, you should be able to find a link in the description. But that'll cover it for this tutorial. Until next time, thank you everybody for watching.